Good morning. Thank you for braving the snow and cold once again to get here. I have it on good authority that spring is 26 days away. That good authority is Siri. I asked my iPhone today, and that's what she said. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go to a place called the Quickie Mart. This was similar to a village pantry, but it didn't sell gas. In fact, I'm not even sure what all it sold, but I do know it had aisles and aisles of candy and soda. We would ride our bikes there because it was located on a pretty busy road. We would go through the elementary school lot, across the baseball fields, through a dirt path, and then we would squeeze through a fence in order to get there. Now, this was at a time when there were no video games, there were no computers, there was no YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Info, Snap, Vine, all those things. We had 3 channels on the television, 4 if you didn't mind watching PBS through what looked like snow. So going to the Quickie Mart was kind of a good time. It was something kids in the neighborhood really looked forward to. We would take the quarter that we had earned raking leaves or babysitting, and we could buy a full-size candy bar and a 12-ounce soda. We would go any time during the year, except during Lent. During Lent, I would call my friends and ask if they wanted to go to the Quickie Mart, and they would say no because they had given up candy, sugar, or soda. Now, this was a tradition that my family didn't follow, so I have to admit, it was a little bit weird to me. The only other thing I knew about Lent was that the school cafeteria served fish sticks on Fridays. Do you remember that? Today is the first Sunday of Lent. Since those days of 25-cent junk food binges, I have learned a little bit. Lent covers 40 days. That doesn't include Sundays. It begins on Ash Wednesday, which was last Wednesday, and ends during Holy Week, actually on Holy Saturday. Lent is thought of as a time to acknowledge the ways that we're straying away from God in our lives. Some say there are 3 pillars of Lent: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Now, alms were the currency of the day, so if you happen to have any spare alms, you know to drop them off in the watering cans on your way out. The thinking is that these activities, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, what they really do is help us get away from whatever has distracted us from God in our lives. So, giving up something for Lent is ultimately a form of fasting. So in some religions, Lent is a time when what we really do is give up some small pleasure or some small indulgence or a bad habit such as smoking as a way of positively turning our lives back toward God. Now that I have a better understanding, the symbolism does make sense to me. But as you know, we like to think a little bit differently here at the Garden. What if, for Lent, we think about giving up things that drain our energy? Or better yet, what if we think about seeking out things that really give us energy, things that recharge us? The thinking about this came from a business trip I recently attended. There were about 40 of us, and most of us were from outside Switzerland where the meeting was being held. They were going to be really long days. They were going to start at 7 a.m. and end at 9 p.m. So I decided that what I needed to do was work out early in the morning before the meetings actually started. For me, the best way I can keep my energy up throughout the day is to do a workout in the morning. Now, I run. It's like a turtle running through peanut butter, but I do run, still try. I was the only one in the gym, despite the fact that everyone who was in our meetings was staying at the same hotel. So I did my workout, I showered, and I got to the meeting room. And when I walked in the meeting room, it looked like a battlefield. There were phones and chargers and computers plugged in all around the room. And the reason was our hotel didn't have enough converters for all of us, so they had them at the office where the meeting was being held. Honestly, the cords looked like IVs in a trauma center for electrical devices. And what it did, it really made me think about how we're so careful not to let the batteries get low on our phones or on our computers. But what about us? What do we do to recognize when our body, our mind, or our spirit is in need of a recharge? How do we know when our batteries, our personal batteries, are down to 10 or 20%. Now, admittedly, I'm not always the best at recognizing this. My family still talks about what has become known as pizza day. On pizza day, I did my usually Saturday morning routine of doing laundry, cleaning the house, going to the grocery store, getting the dry cleaning, and I decided to stop and get a Papa Murphy's Take and Bake pizza. If you don't know what this is, it's a pizza that's pre-made and it's all ready to go, so all I needed to do is pop it in the oven. The reason I did this is it had been an incredibly hectic week at work. It was very stressful. All I wanted to do was get done with everything so I could finally relax. So I came home, put away the groceries, and I remembered that there was one thing that I had forgotten. So I got back in my car to finish that errand. When I got back to the house, my family had eaten the pizzas for lunch, the ones I had intended for dinner. I have to admit, I had what I'm now calling a menopausal moment. I yelled, I screamed, I might have slammed a few doors, and I think I might have even said a few very unchristian words. My family was thinking, what's the big deal? Well, as you can imagine, it wasn't about the pizza at all. It was about the stress of the entire week and about balancing everything. I was exhausted. My personal and emotional energy was gone. My batteries were desperately in need of recharging. I still regret my decision that day, my reaction, especially when my family won't let me forget it. If you see them, ask them about pizza day. Many of us are so busy doing things for work, for our spouse, for our partner, for others, that we just don't take time to recharge ourselves. I don't know that we always take time to recognize the things that really recharge us. Stephen Covey calls our need for recharging sharpening the saw. It's the seventh habit in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He sometimes says it's the most important habit because it really gives us the energy we need to do the other 6 habits. He talks about the need to sharpen the saw in 4 dimensions: mental, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual. Now, I don't want you to think this is some talk about getting enough sleep and exercising. This isn't it at all. This is that thing that gives you energy, that thing that just recharges your batteries. I was talking with a friend about this recently, and I asked him, I said, what recharges your batteries? And he said, brewing beer. And he didn't even hesitate when he gave that response. And I know this guy, and he's pretty scientific, so I think maybe part of brewing beer is a science experiment for him. But the other things he added was that he does it with a group of friends. They laugh. They all kind of have their role in it. And he says they end up with a pretty good product at the same time. I asked another friend who, without hesitation, said his was chopping wood. He says he loves the rhythm of it, but more than anything else, he has to get everything out of his mind. Because if he doesn't, he'll lose a limb. So what he does is he can go 4 or 6 hours, and all of a sudden he realizes that his head is clear and his mind is open, and he loves that feeling. Whatever your thing is, by sharpening the saw or recharging our own personal batteries, we increase our capacity to live fully and handle the challenges that come to us. Without recharging, I think we get further away from God. So based on my experience with Pizza Day, I'm not the best role model at this. So we recently asked a few gardeners what they do to recharge. Let's take a look.
If I want to recharge my battery, there's 2 different things I might do. 1, power nap. Could be in the car, could be on a park bench, could be on your front lawn. Power nap, I love it. But if I don't do a power nap, it means I'm going to get the music on loud and I'm going to dance and sing and run around the house. Usually when no one is home. Mostly when no one is home. What do you do to recharge?
When I need to recharge, I usually take a few minutes and watch Love It or List It on HGTV.
I go for a walk with my kids.
I make paper airplanes.
A nice warm shower recharges my batteries.
I like to relax with my 2 golden retrievers, Buddy and Rocky.
What recharges my batteries is the garden. and I don't feel like my week starts out right unless I go to the service, and I always get something positive out of it.
Actually, I charge my batteries each day with a 2-mile walk with my dog Josie.
What I like to do to recharge my batteries is to lift weights, fish, go to the lake, and spend time with the family doing fun stuff.
To be recharged, I meet with my friends at least once a week. We laugh and we chat about life's events.
Like SpongeBob!
What recharges me is probably writing in my stories that I post online.
I like to relax by hanging out with my cat.
I make dried flower arrangements.
My favorite way to relax is by playing with my cats.
I go and pound on things. Just pound on stuff like with a hammer.
Hi, I like to recharge my batteries by drinking a couple glasses of wine.
I go to the park and shoot model rockets with my kids.
I work in my garden or drive my tractor, and also I help my wife pick out videos and songs for the garden.
What do I like to do to relax and recharge? Dance!
You see, the sources of our energy, how we recharge, is very different from all of us. Our Bible passage for the day shows us that even Jesus needed to recharge sometimes. Let me set this up. Jesus is with John and James, and they go to the home of Simon and Andrew, where Simon's mother-in-law is ill. Jesus heals her, and the whole neighborhood finds out, and he spends the entire evening healing people and driving out demons, which, as you can imagine, would be exhausting. So, Jesus needed to recharge his own batteries. The Bible passage is from Mark, chapter 1, verses 35 through 38. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come." You see, Jesus knew when his body and spirit needed to be recharged, so he left to be by himself to pray. After his time alone, he felt renewed, and he was ready to go to the other villages and continue preaching. I think that we all need to realize when our body needs to be recharging, when our mind, our body, our relationships, and our spirit are in need of a recharge and need of new energy. We need to know ourselves enough to know what that is. I think Stephen Covey said it best when he said, "Sharpen the saw means preserving and enhancing your most greatest asset, you."